I'm going to show you what to do if you don't know what to do, and the 5 steps to get you there coming up. What's going on, guys? My name is Tim Ruswick, and today we're going to talk about overwhelm, because I find that a lot of people in game development get overwhelmed on all the stuff that they learn, all the stuff that they want to learn, all the stuff that they're doing, the engine, the programming, the art, all this different stuff, and then they don't know what to do. They get overwhelmed and they don't know what to do because there's so much to do. They get lost in the vastness of everything in game development. And making a game is a big project, right? Like, it's not as simple as you would think it is looking at it, and it can be very complex at times. There are a lot of different pieces. There are a lot of different skill sets that you need to make a game, and a lot of the skill sets are vastly different from each other. Like, music is very different than art. Art is very different than programming. So especially as a solo developer, having to fill in all those little pieces, it can be very daunting and very overwhelming. And I thought I'd make this video. I love the what to do when you don't know what to do, because I think that's where a lot of people are at. They just want to know, what should I do, because I have no idea where to start. I have no idea what to do. And this is based on a blog post that I wrote a couple months ago, so you guys can check that out. I'll link that in the description if you want to. But basically, there are 5 steps, I think, to figuring out what you should do right now if you don't know what to do. And the steps are easier than they sound, and I'll walk you through them real quick. So step 1 is just to breathe. Just take a second, chill out, be alone if you can. Like, if you can get rid of people and kind of, be alone in your room, or go to the bathroom if you can't get away from somebody. Just chill out, be alone, give your brain some space, and just think about the thing that you want to achieve. Think about what specifically you're trying to do. And so I think getting alone and just taking a second to breathe is step 1. I think step 2 is figuring out specifically what you're trying to achieve, figuring out that thing that you want to do. Sometimes it's building a game. Sometimes it's just getting the game to a workable state. Sometimes it's finishing the art. Sometimes it doesn't have to be the whole stack of finishing a game. Sometimes it's a very specific piece. And the more specific you are, the better. Because you really want to think about where you want to go, and the more general you get about that, the more ambiguous some of the action steps can be, which I think you really need to understand, right? Like, you got to figure out where you're going to understand what to do to get there, right? So that leads us to step number 3, which is, after you take a second to breathe and you figure out what you're trying to achieve, step 3 is to break what you're trying to achieve down into individual pieces. And these pieces have to be action steps. I think a lot of people, when they set up task lists, or they set up goals, or they set up whatever it is they're setting up, they miss the fact that they have to be able to take action on these things. So, for example, they'll say things like, finish the game engine, as a task list or as an action item. That's not an action item, because there are 1,000 little pieces that are inside of that. Those 1,000 little pieces are not only pieces that need to be developed, but they're variables. They change as your game changes. They change as your brain changes, as time changes. If you leave it for a month and come back, those things are going to be different. So saying something that ambiguous doesn't get you anywhere. When I say break down the action steps that you need to take, what I mean is, if you want to finish your game, what are the 5 things that you need to finish your game? You got to finish the art, you got to finish the programming, you got to finish the music, got to finish the sound, and then you got to put everything together, right? Those are the 5 things you need to do. So what are the actual action steps that you need to do for each one of those? For finishing the sounds, maybe you need to list every single sound that you have to do in the game. For finishing the programming, what specific things do you need to build in the programming? Finishing the art, what specific sprites or what 3D models do you need to actually get built to finish out? You have to list them specifically, right? And this can be a very time-consuming and overwhelming task in itself, so I recommend that rather than break everything down, you break down the most important piece, because you can organize these things by impact, and that's what I recommend you do. So, for example, if you're building a platformer is like my go-to example for some reason. The actual mechanics might be more important than the art, and the art might be more important than the music, and the sound might be, you know, each place has its hierarchy of getting to a playable version of the game. And I think you want to organize it by, if you completed this thing, what impact would it have on the whole or on the experience, or if you showed it to somebody, how much better would it be? So, for example, art tends to have one of the highest impacts out there as far as a playable game for other people, because they tend to judge things visually. So getting the mechanics done, obviously, like, you have to have a working game, but then getting the art in could probably be two of the most important pieces of everything, because that's technically the whole game. The sound adds a lot and the music adds a lot, sure, but without the mechanics, there's no game. Without the art, there's no visuals. And those are the two primary aspects of the game. So you want to think about that specifically. So you break it down into individual pieces on what you're trying to achieve, but then you organize those pieces by impact. So after you have the pieces, you want to make a list of action items that you need for those pieces. So like I said, if you finish your individual, if you need to finish the game mechanics, or you need to finish the jump, or finish whatever, you need to list specific things that you need to program. So I need physics implementation on when the player initially jumps. I need the gravity implementation on what brings the player back down. I need the double jump at the height of the jump when that happens. List specific things. So for art, like I said, it could be a specific list of assets, specific list of sprites or 3D models or whatever you need. So now you have a list of action items of things that you have to do in order by impact, right? That's a super good place to be in, because now you know exactly what you need to do in order and everything that you need to build. The final step 5, is just to pick the top thing and go. Just start that thing and just get on it. Don't think about it. Don't wonder if you'd rather do the other thing. Don't think about which thing could be more effective if you do it. Just start on the top thing and go for it. That has gotten me through so many times when I've been overwhelmed. It's ridiculous. And I know I tend to ramble a bit, so just to kind of recap, you want to take a second to breathe, chill out, get alone, get some time to think. You want to figure out what you're trying to achieve. Figure out what the grand scheme of things you want to actually build or create or finish. You want to break it down into individual pieces, and you want to organize them by impact. You want to make a list of action items for each one of those individual pieces, and then you want to start on the top list. That's all you got to do. Again, just doing this whole process, I think, at first I was doing it without knowing I was doing it. It was just something that I would do because I always felt better when I got all this big massive shit that I had to do in my brain out on paper. But I noticed just getting out on paper wasn't good enough. I had to actually be specific and have the right order and all that. And I think this is the solution to when people don't know what to do, or they're scared to start, or they don't know where to start, or they've just read a bunch of shit and watched a bunch of tutorials, have no idea what to do or where to go or when to start. This helps you get there. And this removes all of the thinking and the efficiency garbage that goes through your head, like, is it more efficient or more effective to do it this way first or do that? Just don't worry about what's more efficient. The thing that's more important is just to get started, to actually just start on the thing and get somewhere. Because if you spend all this time worrying about what you're going to do or how to do it or when to do it and what order to do it, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's time wasted that you could spend just actually doing shit. So I want you to keep that in mind, that like getting started is the most important thing that you can do. And this is a quick way to just get started, to just pick the top thing without putting all this mental effort and worry and thought into it. Just get fucking started, man. Just jump on the top thing, work through it and get there. And that's how you get out of overwhelm. That's how you figure out what to do when you don't know what to do. And so if you're in that state of mind, I hope this helped you out. If it did, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you guys as always. Once again, I'm Tim Ruswick, and I'll see you next time.